Hello and welcome to the Car Care Nut channel, and welcome to this beautiful GSF. Folks, Lexus has been doing the F-Sport thing forever, taking a normal car, putting stiffer shocks on it, and making it ride horrible. But they have the F cars, the ISF, the GSF, and in a way, the LC500. Folks, these are proper cars. They are done from the ground up to be performance sedans or performance cars. The beauty of a car like this is you can drive it every day. It's comfortable, it has all the features, it has 4 doors, plenty of seat, plenty of space, very comfortable. And then one day if you decide you want to go to the track, you can take it, enjoy it. It's not the fastest car, it's not the best handling car in the world, but at the end of the track day, it's not going to break down on you because these things are so well made. They're exquisite. They're beautiful. And in today's video, we're going to take a proper tour of this GSF. We're going to take a look under the hood, underneath the car, inside it, around it, so you can see what is so special about the F-line cars from Lexus right after this. Let's take a tour of the outside of the Lexus GSF. And the first thing to be said is, this generation Lexus GS is such a beautiful car. I really feel bad that they discontinued them. They're such beautiful cars. They look nice, they drive nice, the inside is nice. They're such a beautiful, and the same can be said about all Lexus GS generations. It's just such a beautiful sedan, just the right size. But let's focus on the F car. You look at the front end. It's such a beautiful front end. I really like the little sophisticated details, the front headlight that breaks into that L shape. And then, yes, it does have the spindle grille. Some people dislike it, but I think this one is not over the top. I really like it. And then there's the F stuff. You look here, this car almost have like nostrils in the front. These are actually actual functional cooling ducts for the brakes. And then you have some carbon fiber here. Nothing excites car guys more than carbon fiber, so more is better. And then you have these massive openings with radiators behind them for cooling. Everything is functional here. They really took the normal GS and they made it into this special car. Then we wrap around it and you notice one thing, and this is actually what brought this car into our shop. Look at these massive brakes. They are Brembo brakes. They are exclusive to this car. They're not the same as the regular GS model. And we'll look at those a little bit down in the video with the replacements so you can see how big they are. This is another vent that is actually functional. Brake duct, just air comes in, cools the brakes, and then air comes out. Very cool looking. And then the F badge, not the F Sport. This is the proper F badge with a blue kind of outline around it, and you see that blue somewhere else. Then there's one thing that is a little bit strange. For some reason, the mirror is different color on the GSF. I don't think it looks right, it just looks off. Looks like somebody went to a junkyard and got one, but that's how they did it. This is actually how these are. And then the side skirt is completely different on the GSF model because it kind of wraps with the vent and goes around. Very cool. I really like the design of the wheels as well. The rear brakes are also different. They're much bigger brakes than the standard GS. Then we wrap around the back, and there's something special. For some reason, and I like that reason, they decided to put the exhaust tips in this orientation. There's 4 of them, and they sound very, very beautiful. Here is a small clip of how these exhausts sound like. Beautiful sound, isn't it? Just the proper raw V8. No supercharger, no turbocharger, nothing. We're going to take a look under the hood in a bit. And then, again, more carbon fiber. Little lip spoiler here, there's carbon fiber. And another badge, GSF. And the F is very big, and it should be big because this is just beautiful. The taillight is a little bit darker on the inside. Just think of it more of a special look. This is the halo model of this GS. And the best thing about it is That is a pretty big trunk. This is the best part about these cars. You can drive them every day. They are usable. It's not the biggest trunk in the world, but it is big enough for a sedan of this size. And I really like that about it. Then we wrap around the side and let's look at the interior. The interior, for the most part, is a standard Lexus GS interior. Very beautiful though, it has to be said. The interior on the Lexus GS in this generation is just a beautiful thing. The only thing they changed here is the seats. You notice these are bucket seats and they're completely different. They don't have a detachable headrest. Everything is just beautiful. I really like these seats. The best part about these seats is they are heavily bolstered, but they're actually pretty comfortable, and I like that. And they really went to town with the Alcantara. You have Alcantara here, and the headliner, and on top of the dash. They just made it special. I mean, these cars were really expensive when they were new, and they had to make something special. But something even more special is the gauges. They put the speedometer so small. It's just a weird configuration of the speedo location, how small it is. I like that. I really like the generation in GS. They're so well made. They're made in Japan, and they're so well put together, and everything works. And in the GSF, it's even better. But wait, let's look at the beating heart that makes this GSF as special as it is. Would you take a look at what's under the hood here? At this beautiful sight. This is a 5.0. It's a V8. No turbocharging, no supercharging, nothing. Just a big V8. 5-liter 2UR GSE. This is, in a way, the same engine as in the LC500. It is a beautiful engine. It is derived basically from a truck. They took a truck engine and they figured out a way how to keep it reliable, but make it produce almost 500 horsepower. Very cool engine. I mean, from the moment you start this car and you hear this engine, it's just a beautiful thing. Now, when this engine came out, the technology that it had was groundbreaking, but today it is extremely old school. And by the way, this is a similar version of this engine is in the IS500. We're going to review that when we get one here in the shop. Let's talk about some of the technologies in this engine that make it cool. This is a performance-oriented engine. And the way you know performance-oriented engines with Toyota Land, if you have an FE or an F, that is an economy engine. If you have a G, that is a performance engine. This is an GSE. So this engine has D4S, direct and port injection. It does have a very clever variable valve timing system, so the intake is electronically controlled. This engine was actually the first one in the Toyota lineup to have this technology. The closest thing to this engine is going to be your LS460. Very similar to this, but this is smaller and the cams are different. It's more performance oriented. And you notice one thing about it, most GSs and basically all Lexus in this time era had 0W20 oil. This one takes 5W30. This is a performance engine, not your grocery getting gas sipping normal Lexus. What a beautiful engine. And one thing I want to show you, remember we talked about the blue in the F badge. You notice they painted the intake manifold completely blue. That was just one thing. Again, it really doesn't add any function, but it just makes, again, car guys very, very, very happy. It's just beautiful. Now on the engine cover, we also have a little bit of, I think this is fake carbon fiber, but it still looks like carbon fiber. We like it. Makes us very, very happy. Well, let's put this thing on the lift. Let's check out underneath it, because there are a few things here that many people actually are not aware of, and I'll share with you actually what brought this car to our shop as well. Let's take a look underneath the Lexus GSF, and one thing have to be said being underneath here, it's just a beautiful machine. Let's check out some of the cool things. It's all covered up in the front, which is pretty standard. Here's the oil filter, drain plug is right here for the oil. Pretty simple, the DIYers that are into cars. But let's start with the front suspension here, because there is a sight to be behold to, the brakes. Well, look at this massive caliper. This is a 6-piston Brembo caliper with massive rotors. I mean, this thing is so huge, it fills this entire wheel. What a sight. And this is what brought this car to our shop. So it needed front brakes, and during the inspection we found 2 shocks leaking. Initially I told him, let's do the front shocks, the rear ones really weren't leaking bad, but the owner loves this car so much he was just like, you know what, let's put all 4 new shocks. And I'll show you those in a little bit. There was some interesting twist with these shocks. But the front suspension, for the most part, it's all aluminum, very similar to the regular GS, nothing really special about it. Ball joint that is separate, upper ball joint that is part of the control arm, pretty standard stuff here. And you can see that one of the brake ducts right here. Here's that brake duct right here. And then the other one, you can't really see it, it's hidden behind the wheel. But as we continue our way back, here is the transmission. It's pretty well covered here, but you can still see the oil pan. It's a sealed type. Basically, exactly the same as other Toyota and Lexus transmissions for the sealed stuff. This is an 8-speed transmission. It's a pretty rugged transmission that shifts really good. However, on the GSF, that's one of the complaints about it. It is a little bit on the lazy side, this transmission. It's really rugged and well made, but it's not very quick. And you know, you get in a car that makes this much power, you'd love this transmission to be a little bit faster, but it's not. But hey, it's gonna be here for a very long time. Then we look at this. This is one of my least favorite things, and it's not exclusive to the GSF. This is the same thing with the GS and the IS. You know, you want to replace the sensor, you have to get a special socket that is very thin-walled so you can get into this shield. Look at this shield, this little shield that they put here, which is totally unnecessary. You need a special socket to go in here, but then this is in your way. So basically they want you to drop the exhaust to change this. Very not a good design. Then as we make our way back, the exhaust has something very interesting right here in this section. This is actually an X exhaust. These 2 pipes are connected. And this is something common with V8s, and that's why they sound really good. You got secondary cats here. There's 2 more cats over there. And then as we make our way back, we have to look at a very, very big spectacle, which is the rear differential. I mean, when you look at this thing, look how massive this thing is. And as we get closer to it, let me explain what's going on here. This is the differential, and these are actually 2 side clutches that engage each wheel individually. So the computer can precisely control which wheel is engaged. It's kind of an advanced limited slip differential. It can really let the wheels go and make this an open diff, or it can send all the power to this wheel or to this wheel, and it can control how much power is going where. This is super cool, and I wish more cars actually have this. Performance cars, you don't really need this in a normal car. But there is more. If we wrap around and look in the back here, would you look at this very cute little rack and pinion? Look at this, tie rods, outer tie rod, because this car has rear steering. Very, very cool to see this. And this is something that the last time I saw a GS that has something extremely just unique like this was the GS 450H, where it has the active rear sway bars. Very cool feature. I wish I would have seen it here, but I guess they deemed it not necessary in this car. This car handles super well for me. You know, if you take it on track, there's better cars, but this handles very good for what it is and how reliable it is. All this stuff looks like a massive complication, but actually very reliable. They don't really have issues. Yes, when you do an alignment, you gotta adjust the toe as well. There's a little bit of a procedure to it, but nothing really extreme. Here's that other shock that we replaced. We did end up replacing both rear shocks. And then last but not least, before we talk about what we did to this car, the exhaust. Here's that big muffler with the 2 pipes. They are actual pipes, folks. They're not some fake, one of them is fake, one of them is real. No, they both come out from the muffler. Very interesting design to look at it. I really like this. Some people dislike it. I think it's unique. They didn't just copy everybody else. They made something their own. Then we look over here. I want to show you this just for reference. This is the massive front pad that comes out of this car. And this is a 6-piston caliper in the front. And the best part is, if you come close to the pad, it says Brembo and Toyota. It doesn't say Lexus anywhere. That's the best part. Basically, this is a Brembo pad made for Toyota for this car. Now, something to be said about this brake job. It is extremely expensive. So the pads on this are exclusive to this car, and they come with the pads, the shims, all the hardware you need, and the wear sensors. It actually comes with it for a very low, non-Lexus-like price of $450 for a set of pads in the front. And they are actually small pads. They're not big pads like a normal car. They're very low to begin with. That's just how they are. And then the rotors. The front rotors are $260 each. So just in parts, you have almost $1,000 for just the front brakes. And the rear's cheaper, but still, it's a massive caliper and a massive rotor as well. So there's that. But then the strut. There is something very unique about this strut. I haven't seen it in other Lexus models. The wire. So this has, a valve inside that can change the dampening of the strut. Nothing really exclusive. You have the GX has that. Many other Lexus models have that. Some of them will have the actuator that sits on top that does that change. Some of them will have an actuator on the side. But this one, very interestingly, has a wire coming out of it. And the actuator is inside. This is such a horrible idea because there's a nut here. So the spring sits here, and then you have your mount and then the nut that locks it. Well, how do you get the nut off? You have to twist this wire like this, get a very special socket that goes in here, and without damaging the wire, you turn it a little bit, take it. Such a horrible design. I think they would have just went with what they normally do. This was the only thing that was a little bit strange about this, but otherwise, if you replace shocks on any other car, it's exactly the same. The rear shocks are actually super simple. They don't have the spring on them. There's a little bit of a workaround to get them, but that's about it. They're very simple, very DIY actually, especially the fronts are extremely simple. Now, something about this style shock. If you look here, the mount of the spring, this is a front shock, it moves, and that's by design, folks. I've had people say, hey, we've changed shocks, and these move. That's how they are. It has a land where it sits on, and it's not going anywhere after that. That is how these are supposed to be. Just, I thought I'd say that for reference. So folks, this is the Lexus GSF. Let me share with you a few things about reliability of these, kind of a summary of a buying guide. These are beautiful cars. They're very exclusive. However, there's one thing you need to know about them. Their operating expenses are a little bit higher. The first thing is, before we even get to the mechanical stuff, your insurance will remind you that you're driving an almost 500 horsepower car, not your average, economy nice Lexus. Insurance will be expensive for these, so be careful. The other thing is regular maintenance. The brakes are extremely expensive. As you saw, I talked a little bit about it when we were looking underneath it. The other stuff is the interior pieces, expensive, and that Alcantara everywhere is hard to keep clean and hard to maintain. And the other thing is, these cars, the tires are special, and they are expensive. And as far as reliability of the rest of the stuff, there's a lot of stuff. You saw the rear. It has a rack and pinion in the back. It has all this stuff that eventually, even though they are reliable, they will go and things will get expensive. You get into a car like this, your mentality should be, this is going to be an expensive car to maintain, but it is well made and it's reliable. The other thing is with this engine is super reliable. However, don't maintain it, and this thing will start burning oil like you would not believe. And the other thing is, there's one common oil coolant leak from this engine, that from the valley plate underneath, from the heat exchanger right underneath intake manifold, very expensive, and when they leak, they just start bellowing coolant out. And that is really one of the common problems with these. Few oil leaks as they get older, valve covers, fuel pump leaks oil, but nothing very, very mega expensive to fix. If you compare this to other high-performance cars, this is a bargain. And the prices that they're going for today are just unbelievable. This is a bargain. Instead of buying a regular GS 350, which there's nothing wrong with that. If you're a car guy, you like this stuff, this is a car you can actually daily drive. It'll be a little bit more expensive, but you can daily drive this, and it is beautiful, folks. Folks, I hope this video was helpful and informative. I hope you learned something new. If you like it, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some of my other videos. Until the next video, folks, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and you have yourself a wonderful day.